1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 24. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it. And everyone who competes for the prize is temperate, disciplined in all things. Now they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but we for an imperishable crown. Therefore I run this way, not with uncertainty. Thus I fight, not as one who beats the air, but I discipline my body and I bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. Paul uses the analogy of running a race, and he's talking to Greeks. He's talking to the Greek culture and the Greek people. They were very athletic. They were very fit. They prized physical fitness in the Greek culture. He says it's not speed, but endurance. It's not that everyone enters the race, and he draws this analogy, but he says it's those who win the prize. There is no, in the Greek culture, there was no reward for the second place or the third place. Only if you won the prize were you a winner. And it's like running a marathon. Living for God requires us to be temperate or disciplined in all things. Just like an athlete has to discipline his body. Just like an athlete will abstain and be temperate and know that if I eat a pizza tonight, I'm not going to perform well on the field in the morning. They know that. They're temperate in all things. You must be temperate in all things. He said, and you avoid excess. As a runner in your diet, you retain your flesh. You restrain your flesh. It's under subjection. You're patient. In other words, you endure without complaint. So I came upon a story that I want to share with you today, a true story of what happens in the Boston Marathon. The Boston Marathon is one of the premier marathons that runners are familiar with, particularly professional runners. 26.2 miles they run and they train. And what is interesting is the first 16 miles of the Boston Marathon. A lot of people don't know this, but it was designed by the planners of the Boston Marathon that the first 16 miles be a slow downgrade hill. You may not know it when you're running it, but the whole time for the first 16 miles of the Boston Marathon it's a slow downgrade run downhill. But then when you hit the 16-mile mark, there is something that begins to take place, particularly in young runners, that confounds them. When the race starts out and the gunshot goes off and the racers start running, everybody looks good, everybody looks fresh, everybody's got on the shorts and the nice tennis shoes and the little number, and they all look like runners, all of them. But when they get to the 16-mile mark, it's a proven fact that physically something begins to happen to your body. The muscles begin to really have a meltdown. The mind begins to get a little foggy. And at the 16-mile mark, something begins to happen. It comes when you're at your weakest condition, when you're most depleted. That's when the designers of the Boston Marathon have the first hill you have to climb. And it's called Heartbreak Hill. They know that after the runners have run for 16 miles, all the amateurs and the beginners will run and run and run, and they think, I got it. But they get finally to the 16-mile mark and something begins to break down. It's called hypoglycemia. When your body and the endorphins and everything inside begins to drain, and first the brain has a choice to pull the rest of the energy out of your body or your muscles, and the brain wins, and you all of your power, all of your energy, all of the endorphins, it goes to your brain, and now you're running on raw muscle power that's running on its own, and everything in your body is screaming, stop, stop, stop. And then they said what happens is the head begins to get cloudy at the 16-mile mark. It's called hitting the wall for runners. And when they hit the wall, everything in you says, just give up. Says it's time to quit. And especially when you hit that wall, when you really need a break, that's when it really gets hard. That's when you hit Heartbreak Hill. And that's when the runners start falling out by the hundreds. Because there's something about Heartbreak Hill that breaks the spirit and breaks the heart of the amateur weekend runners who just kind of showed up for the marathon. If you do happen to make it 16 miles, you're not going to make it up Heartbreak Hill unless you have really prepared yourself for this moment. I'm a runner. I love to run. I love to run 4 or 5 miles a day. I love it. And I've been doing it for years and years and years. Every once in a while, my girls will say, Daddy, we want to go run with you. And they will get out and just take off running, wide open. Now, I know if I'm going to run 5 miles, I need to pace myself. But they'll just take off. And about a third around the track, they'll slow down and huff and puff, and I'll just go right by them. And I'll look back and wave. It's a blessing. You don't pay any attention to people who come out of the gate real fast. The real contenders are content. They're disciplined. They understand that I'm holding my flesh back for this race. I'm going to need the energy when I get to Heartbreak Hill. The real experienced runners know Heartbreak Hill is coming. I didn't expect it to be a downhill run the whole way. I didn't expect it to be easy. I never expected there just to be a nice little trot across the finish line. I am fully aware that if I'm going to have what I need to get over Heartbreak Hill and get to the prize, I'm going to have to pace myself. We need to get out of just being weekend contenders. See, what we don't understand is the strategy of Heartbreak Hill by those who designed the Boston Marathon was to weed out weekend runners. Weed out the guy who's just out there to impress his girlfriend, and he said, let's go, and his belly's hanging over, and he's going to get out there and run the Boston Marathon. You might run downhill a good long ways, but when you get to heartache, you might have a heart attack hill when you get there. It's designed to weed out the amateurs. It's designed to get rid of the social runners. It's designed to weed out the weekend contestants. Those who just have nice fancy shoes and colored shirts and they look the part of a runner. Heartbreak Hill nullifies everything but stamina and physical conditioning and training and desire and the will to win. If you don't have that, you will never be able to get over Heartbreak Hill. I don't care how good you started. I don't care how far you ran. When you get to Heartbreak Hill, if something isn't in you that says, I cannot quit, you won't make it. Heartbreak Hill weeds out the guys who are just out there. Heartbreak Hill comes when fatigue is a real factor. You face your Heartbreak Hill when you are exhausted, when you're worn out, when you're worn down, when everything in you is screaming quit. That's when you have hypoglycemic spiritually. You have it. And suddenly you're physically exhausted. Fatigue has set into your faith and into your praise and into your spirit, and everything in you says quit, because now you've been running and running and running, and it was easy when you first started, but now you're facing Heartbreak Hill. Something's breaking your heart. Something's breaking your dreams. Something's breaking your heart. Your children are causing you to be heartbroken. Your marriage, your family is leaving you heartbroken. Some crisis you're going through. It's in that moment in this Christian race that you find out what you've really got. It's not the high times. It's when you're facing Heartbreak Hill. Feels like your muscles are running on nothing. Your head feels dizzy and foggy. It's in that moment you have to stretch. It's in that moment that you have to decide, I'm not a weekend runner. The Ethiopian runners are the fastest runners in the world. They're so little, they're so skinny. And if you ever are running in a race and some guys from Ethiopia show up, you need to just go get you a donut and watch. Because it's not going to end well. Have you ever seen these guys? How many of you, I follow running. The Ethiopians are the fastest runners in the world. And if they show up, just forget it. Don't embarrass yourself, especially if you're a white guy like me. Don't get out there and try to outrun those Ethiopians. They can run like you would not believe. And here's why. This is what one was interviewed recently from Ethiopia, Africa. And this is what he said. He said, we run uphill all our lives. He said, you Americans just run and practice running straight and then uphill. He said, we run uphill. Our nation is running uphill all our lives. So when we come to Heartbreak Hill, it's no big deal. I've been running uphill my whole life. Why would I quit now? I love that. We stretch ourselves. We run uphill. We're not amateurs. We're temperate in all things. We run to win. We don't quit. We don't stop. Heartbreak Hill is located in one of the loneliest places of the race. When you first come out of the starting gate, there are cheerleaders there. There's people screaming. There's thousands of fans clapping. But when you keep running and you get to that 16-mile mark and you're about to go up Heartbreak Hill, there are no fans. There's no cheering. It's lonely. It's by yourself. Nobody's saying you can do it. You can do it. Nobody's running out offering you some Gatorade. There's nobody there but you. It's a lonely place. And some of you can run as long as people are encouraging you. Some of you can run as long as somebody's bringing you, a spiritual Gatorade and always encouraging you. But there is a place you're going to get to in your future walk with God. I hate to tell you this, but it's the truth. There's a heartbreak hill somewhere in your life you're going to encounter. And there won't be anybody there cheering you. There won't be anybody there saying you can make it. There won't be anybody. The only voice that will matter is your voice and God's voice. And you have to do like David, and he encouraged himself in the Lord. It's a lonely place. There's no visible finish line in sight at Heartbreak Hill. But it was put there strategically by the one who planned the race. And I'm saying to you that God allows us to run, and sometimes it's an easy and a wonderful and a fun run, and we're running downhill and the wind is at our back. But then there's seasons where we get to Heartbreak Hill. But the Bible said in Psalms 37, the steps of a righteous man are ordered of the Lord. Not just the down steps and the easy steps, but now the mountain steps, the Heartbreak Hill steps. God says, I want you to climb this Heartbreak Hill. And if you can get over Heartbreak Hill, boy, I just said a mouthful. That's the whole sermon right there. If you can get over your Heartbreak Hill, something broke your heart, something happened, somebody, somewhere, something did something, and it brought you to this place in your Christian walk where it broke your heart and you're facing Heartbreak Hill. God, why did my marriage fall apart? Why did this happen to my children? Why did this happen? My family? Why did my dad leave me? Why? If you won't let Heartbreak Hill stop you, the word of the Lord to you is there is a wonderful prize on the other side of Heartbreak Hill. Most drop out. Most quit. Most give up at Heartbreak Hill. But there are some who say, I never thought it would be easy. I never expected a smooth ride across the finish line. Most runners expend themselves. But there are those who are temperate, who have a made-up mind, who are disciplined. And even if no one cheers you and no one pushes you, men and women who understand that God has placed me at this point and what the enemy meant for my evil, I didn't ever think I'd be at Heartbreak Hill. Some of you have been in relationships and you're still crying about some guy who left you, some girl who left you, some person who left you. But I want to say that what they meant for your evil, God will make work out for your good if you won't quit at Heartbreak Hill. Some of you are facing tragedies and have faced tragedies, and the word of the Lord to you is, if you will get over your Heartbreak Hill, quit living there, quit talking about it, quit building your life around the pain of yesterday. But it's time to go over Heartbreak Hill, because there's something good going to happen to you if you won't give up at Heartbreak Hill. I need somebody to give God a shout of praise if you believe there's hope in your future. Here's what I want to say. It's at that moment that the real leaders come forth. For 16 miles, other people have ran ahead and they look like they were going to win, but when they get to Heartbreak Hill, but if you don't watch it, you turn around and here comes the real leaders. The real leaders are born at Heartbreak Hill. That's where preachers are born. That's where ministry is born. That's where leaders are born. Not running downhill with no resistance, but leaders are born when they face a huge mountain and it breaks their heart, but they persevere and they won't quit, and they're crying and they're struggling and their mind is cloudy and everything inside is saying, give up, the dream isn't going to happen, it's not going to happen. But real leaders then kick in and say, I know what God told me, and by His grace I'm going to win the prize. Woo! Let's rejoice. This is where greatness is born. Not going downhill, but at Heartbreak Hill. That's where greatness is born. You can get over a broken heart. You want to be a leader? Let God break your heart. And see if you can get over the heartbreak hill He puts in your life. And that's the test always. And if you can get over it and not be bitter and not be angry and not hate and not be all upset at God and man, even when you get no explanation and you don't understand, and God just breaks your heart, but you still say, God, you're a good God, don't understand, but I love you. That's where leaders are born. I thought about, in closing, the story of Naomi. Let me tell you about Naomi, Ruth, and Orpah. Naomi started out of the gate. Man, they had on the sneakers. They had on the running shirts and the nice striped shorts. And beautiful family. She had her husband. She had her 2 sons. They married 2 beautiful daughters. It was the biggest, happiest family you've ever seen. The gun goes off. They start running the race. Isn't this wonderful? Running downhill, running downhill. Oh, this is so fun. Look at our beautiful family. They're running and the wind's blowing in their hair. It looks like the Brady Bunch. They're just having a wonderful time, holding hands, running. And then Heartbreak Hill comes. And the husband dies. And then the son dies, and another son. And so now you have Naomi, who is a widow, and you have her daughter-in-law, Ruth, who is a widow, and you have her other daughter-in-law, Orpah, who is a widow. And they're standing at Heartbreak Hill. And Naomi hears that there's bread in Bethlehem. On the other side of Heartbreak Hill, there's a prize. And she turns to her 2 daughter-in-laws and she says, our lives have been devastated. We went out full, but now we've come back empty. And she says, don't call me Naomi anymore. Call me bitter. Life has dealt me a hard blow. And she said, girls, you need to leave me alone, and you need to go and find you another life. This one isn't going to work for you. And Orpah came and kissed her on the cheek, one of her daughter-in-laws, and said, I love you, but I'm not going to climb that hill. I'm going back where I came from. And they parted. But Ruth grabbed her. And she said, where you go, I will go. And your people will be my people. And we're standing here at Heartbreak Hill. And we've lost our loved ones. But you know what? We're not going to die at the foot of Heartbreak Hill. We're going over Heartbreak Hill, and we're going to see what God has on the other side. They go to Bethlehem, and when they get there, there was a guy by the name of Boaz. And God says, let me hook this couple up. Now, who was Ruth? Ruth was a Moabite. The Moabites came into existence because Lot slept with his own daughters. She was the product of incest. So Ruth was the product of incest, and Boaz was the product of a prostitute mother. But they made it through their heartbreak hill, and they got to the other side. And now God hooks up Ruth with Boaz. They get married, and they have a child named Obed, and Obed had a child named Jesse, and Jesse had a child named David, and David had a grandchild named Jesus. God took that family from incest and prostitution to Matthew chapter 1. They're in the genealogy of Jesus Christ, but they had to make it through Heartbreak Hill. Don't tell me God can't bless your family. Don't tell me God can't bless you beyond your background. Don't tell me God can't move in your life. And even if you've been through heartbreak, don't quit. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Because on the other side of Heartbreak Hill, there is a prize. There is a crown. There is a reward if you won't quit and you won't give up.